Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So, as the last video did really well, and since it's been just over a year since I made the last rare vehicle video, I thought I'd make a part 2. So, this video will cover all the rare and exclusive vehicles either removed or introduced over the last year or so. If you're new, I recommend watching the previous video first, as this is a continuation of it. Just to clarify, for a vehicle to count on this video, it mustn't show up in the tree on a fresh account. Also, before we start, due to the WarThunder marketplace, these vehicles are now available to purchase at varying prices. The Grant Mark 1 in the US tree and the Chiha shotgun are back as GE premiums, and the Kingfishers are available to anyone researching rank 2 of the US naval line. Also, the H-35, FCM-36 and Hargo are available for reaching rank 2 in their respective trees. Also, for the console exclusives I can't show you, we have the A26C 45DT for PS4, and the USS Benion, XM1 Chrysler, and the F4U4 VMF214 for Xbox. Right, with that out of the way, let's go on the video. As always, I really hope you enjoy. Righty, so let's start off with the PBM3 Mariner. Now this is a very large float plane that currently sits at 3.0, and despite its low BR it has a pretty good bomb load with 8,000 pound bombs, which for comparison is the same as the B-17G and the B-24 Liberator at 6.0. But its bomb load is really where its advantages stop. It does have 5 single defensive 50 cals, but this doesn't really prove adequate defense, as it's so large and slow, practically any plane can get a fatal firing solution on you before you can get the lead down. And if you can't get to your base to drop your bomb load, how much of an advantage really is it? It is useful and gimmicky for capping in naval forces on top of this, but that's really about it. This aircraft was available only very recently actually, I only unlocked it a few days ago myself. It's part of February 2019's Sea Voyage event, unlockable for 4 completed tasks, and unlike a lot of recent event vehicles, it wasn't available as a coupon, so you won't be able to get it on the market. This was likely to try and entice more players into getting into naval battles to actually earn the thing. It might pop up again in the future, but as it's so recent, it probably won't make another appearance for at least another year. Next up is the animal or scaly King Cobra, a bit weird I know. This is identical to the P63C5 and the only difference is the camo. This was one of the vehicles available for the last April Fool's crafting event, which was a bit of a nightmare. Basically just a test bed for a crafting system through the market. It didn't really make much sense either. You had to combine items to make other items, which on the surface was fine, but it was things like you'd combine 2 caterpillars to make a force field, then 2 force fields to make a water pistol or something equally as silly. So, to be honest, it was probably just the cheapest clip art they could get their hands on. Anyway, after about 24 hours of solid playtime, earning and crafting parts, you'd get this thing. It's not really special or interesting though, it's an exact copy with a made up skin. The plane performs great though, it's powerful, has versatile armament, but there's no real need to get this for yourself unless you're a scaly, or whatever they're called. At the time of recording, it's selling currently for $69.99 on the market, only due to its rarity, so if you are a big collector, this might be your only chance to snap one up, but as a vehicle, it's not even worth considering. Next up is another copy. This is Lanowski's P47M RE. So this is an identical copy of Bostwick's P47M, just with another skin, and was available for an event last November celebrating a century of Poland regaining independence. It was on sale for just over 6,000 golden eagles, which is practically the same price as the Bostwick pack if you convert the cost. As an aircraft, it performs incredibly. It works as a Cath plane or a high-altitude fighter, whatever you like, and I imagine it will probably show up again for another Polish celebration event, but not for a while. Lastly, we have our first and only hidden jet of this video, the FJ4B VMF232. And from a performance standpoint, it is identical to the FJ in the regular tree, but this one can carry up to 5 bullpup guided AGMs, which are absolutely devastating in ground forces. They can be dumbfired or keyboard guided, and if you score a direct hit or a very close hit to a tank, you will knock them out. Don't go throwing your wallet at the screen just yet though. The F100 Super Sabre lets you use them too, just not as many, and it's also creeping up to €100 on the market, and probably won't be around for much longer. Even though it is very effective, I wouldn't say it's worth spending that much on a vehicle though. This was available for the second part of Operation Summer last year for 10 completed tasks, and probably won't be unlockable for some time, if at all, as it's still on the market, but who really knows at this point. It might appear again, just don't know yet. Right, so let's start with the tanks, and first up is the T18 Ytube Boarhound, and huzzah, it's actually a unique vehicle. This is an armoured car at 3.0 and a lot of emphasis on armoured. It's got about 50mm of frontal armour and around 70 on the turret mantlet. Not reliable armour by any means, but for what it is very good. It comes equipped with the M1 57mm cannon, which is found on the Russian premium Su-57, and it comes with really great AP and APHE options. It's decently mobile and versatile with a short stabiliser and smoke grenades, and if played carefully you can get some pretty fantastic results with it. This was available for last year's World War II Chronicles event for 6 tasks earned, but this event was before the introduction of the marketplace, so you can't find it there, but it will probably pop up as a secondary reward for another event task in the future, as that's the way these things are generally going, so look out for it. It's definitely worth getting if you come across it. Back to the trend with our next vehicle, the M18 Black Cat. This is functionally identical to the M18 in the main tree, just with some cosmetic changes. It removes the canvas cover and the muzzle brake. Not a lot to say about this one really, it's just a great vehicle with lots of potential. This was a pack vehicle you could buy on the store, but relatively recently it has been taken off. It will probably come back though in some way or another. Gaijin do this to create artificial rarity for pack vehicles, so for events like Christmas and Victory Day it'll probably be included in one of the large packs, so keep an eye on it if you're interested. Gaijin know how popular the M18 is, so I'm certain it's not going to be gone forever. Lastly, we have the T30. Armour and mobility wise, it's roughly the same as the T29, but it comes equipped with the 155mm gun with HE and APHE options, and both of which are great. The APHE doesn't have the highest pen, it's just under 200mm, but with the overmatch potential and incredible post-pen damage, it really is a devastating round. The downside of course though is the reload, which sits at 38 seconds stock, which really in my opinion makes it less functional than the T29 or T34, both of which never really struggle to pen anything anyway. Although, like most high caliber gun wielding vehicles, it is always a lot of fun to lob a huge HE round across the map and blow someone up. This was available for last year's Winter Madness event as the second tier prize, and is currently available on the market for only 27 Gaijin coins, which is a lot cheaper than the T29 currently. Though don't expect this to last long, as it's only so low because at the time of writing, the event is only just a few months old, meaning that everyone who wanted one has either already bought one or owns one, so the price is going to struggle for a bit. But it will steadily build back up over the years to come as it gets rarer since the number is limited. So if you really do want one, the sooner the better really. Lastly, we have our only rare ship for the US, and that's Kennedy's PT-109, although the Kennedy part of the name has since been dropped. It's a very mobile boat with 4 torps, 2 Dual 50s and an Oerlikon on the back, good for hit and run, but not much else, as for a 2.0, its armament is a little underwhelming, especially in the up tier. This was one of the first pre-order packs for naval forces when they were announced, and were pretty expensive for what we have now. This is when naval gameplay was planned to only be limited to small boats though. In any case, it's off the store with destroyer packs being in its place. And I imagine it'll actually come back as a Golden Eagle premium when naval forces gets a bit more flushed out down the line, as it's nothing really too special and probably nothing Gaijin can really charge too much for, as it's only a tier 2. So if this happens and it turns out to be cheap, why not pick it up? First for Germany is the Bf109Z. This is a twin G6 equipped with 4 short 30s, 2 in the nose and 2 in the pods, and it's actually really good. It climbs well, cruises well, dives well, and is actually pretty manoeuvrable for what it is. And at 4.7 it really performs very well as long as you can get the aim of the guns down. This was a brief pack vehicle only on the store for a few patches before ultimately being removed for whatever reason. I guess it didn't sell well, which is a shame as it really is a super aircraft. Anyway, I expect this one will show up in a pack collection for a big event down the line, and if it does, I do actually recommend getting it. I've really enjoyed my time with this one. Next up, we have the Focke-Wulf 190C. This has a turbocharged engine and currently performs quite differently to the other 190s available, though at the time of recording, its armament and apparently also flight model is bugged, as it's supposed to have two 20mm in the wing roots with 2 centre-mounted 7.92s, but currently the leftmost guns are 20mm while the 2 rightmost are the 7.92s, though these are going to be fixed in the next update. Performance-wise, its manoeuvrability, dive and high altitude performance is really good, though it does suffer heavily at lower altitudes. This was available for the Winter Madness event last year as the high tier aircraft reward. It's currently on sale on the market for only 15 Gaijin coins, but don't expect that to last long, as the market saturation will soon stop and the price will steadily rise up over the year. so if you do want to get it, the sooner the better, as it probably won't be back in an earnable format for a good few years at least. Firstly, for Germany's tanks this time around, is the SD-KFZ 234/3. This is a 1.3 premium, similar to the pack wagon, but with the smaller 75mm howitzer found on the early Panzer IVs. The gun is good, but doesn't really function too well at the higher tiers like the pack wagon does. Nevertheless, at its tier it is great, very mobile, fast reload, and with great ammo choices. This was available for the second part of 2018's Operation Summer for only 2 marks of distinction. It's currently on the market for 7 Gaijin coins, and despite being a low tier tank, it will probably eventually get quite expensive, as despite not being as effective, it's similar enough to the pack wagon that it's likely going to be sought after for the years to come. Next up is the animal or furry tiger. This is identical to the Tiger H1, just with a unique tiger skin and premium bonuses. This was available in tandem with the animal King Cobra for last year's April Fools, and was achieved in the same way. It's currently on the market for 52 Gaijin coins and steadily rising due to its ever-growing rarity, and at its current price I wouldn't really say it's worth it, although maybe it is sexy enough to be alluring if you're one of those types. Maybe Gaijin will continue the animal series for this year's April Fools, who knows, but in any case I wouldn't expect this one to be widely available anytime soon. For Germany's only rare boat, we have the S100 S204 Lang, which I'd say is probably the rarest ship in game. It wasn't one of the original 2 pre-orders when boats were announced, but shoehorned in a few months later with the other pre-orders, and because of this it didn't get its own announcement and wasn't really advertised, and I personally haven't seen one since the first few weeks of the naval launch. From what I can tell, it's functionally identical to the S100 1945, with only minor changes that don't really affect how it plays. It gets a bit more ammo, but I can't really see any other major changes. Oddly though, it's at 2.7 despite its copy being 2.3. I imagine this is just an oversight due to how rare it is, or I might be missing something totally incredible about it, who knows. I imagine down the line this will probably be converted into a Golden Eagle premium, as it's not really worth that much as a boat. It's fast, has decent guns for its BR, but it will get up tier to meet some really nasty ships. And as it's quite large and weak, it doesn't usually last too long. Pretty average, not really unique, but if it comes back cheaply it probably wouldn't be a terrible buy, but it's not going to be worth an arm and a leg. Right, on to Russia. First we have the Tandem Mai. This is a 2.0 premium attack aircraft, which is actually pretty unique. It's a small plane equipped with 4 7.62s and a couple of bombs. It also gets a tail gunner with a pretty good degree of traverse. On top of this, it's very sturdy due to the plywood wing construction. In-game though, it's not super amazing. It has 2 bombs in an internal bay, either 50s or 100s, but because they're internal and center mounted, any rolling of the aircraft will throw the bombs off course. It's also not very quick or maneuverable, but for 2.0 and as an attacker, it's not bad for what it is. This was available for 2018's World War II Chronicles as the first tier prize. It's currently unavailable, but if the current trend of Chronicle events continues, it might be available as an additional reward for this year's Chronicle event, but for now there's no real way of telling. Next up we have the LA-11. Pretty similar to the LA-9, but nowhere near as powerful really. It gets one less 23mm and takes a performance hit in practically every flight aspect. It can turn, dive, boom and zoom, but not really an exceptional capacity. It does work well at mid-altitudes though from my experience. This has been a pack vehicle for a pretty long time, but probably down to low sales, it's been removed from the store, as at least in my opinion it's probably the least reliable grinder for rank 4. Like all the other premium pack vehicles, it'll probably come back in a super pack down the line or be added as a GE premium at some point, but for now it's going to be pretty rare. First for the tanks, we have the Su-85A. This is basically the Su-76M but with the 85mm gun instead of the 76. It's currently the lowest battle rating tank housing an 85 at 4.0, so it easily one-shots pretty much anything. But it does still have the lackluster performance of the Su-76 chassis, low gun depression, relatively slow and open-topped with no real armour, but as long as you shoot first, things will probably go your way. This was available for 2018's Winter Madness event for the first tier of prizes, and is currently being sold for a minuscule €2. So at this time, I'd actually definitely get it. It's a tier 2 premium for a very, very low price, and has the advantage of being quite versatile in that the gun will always work in an up tier. So if it stays around this price, I'd definitely go for it, but it will soon slowly be rising over the next year due to the limited numbers, so if you do want it, the sooner the better really. Next up is the KV2 ZIS-6. This is a modified KV2 equipped with the 107mm ZIS-6 cannon, and it used to be very good. It did have a penetration of just under 200mm, but after the recent calculation changes it only has about 160 now. Which is still very good, but taking its low survivability, mobility and long reload into account, it just isn't as good as it used to be. Still great fun to annex tanks with though, as if it pens it's almost always a one-shot. This was actually one of the first ever 3 pre-order packs back in the day, so it's been around for a fair while. Like the other removed packs, it'll likely come back in one of the big pack collections at some point, as anything KV2 related will always sell one way or another. Next up is the T34-85E. This is basically the regular T34-85 with these mesh screens bolted on the tank, and as you can imagine they offer basically no protection from anything apart from maybe HESH, but you won't really be seeing that anyway. So really all it is a T34 but with a premium modifier. It has been a pack vehicle for a really long time but has recently been removed, likely due to other more popular vehicles taking up space in rank 4. So the only way to eventually make some money out of it is to take it off the store and give it an artificial rarity. It'll come back at some point in one of the big packs for sure, maybe for Victory Day, we'll have to see. Lastly for the tanks is the IS-7. This is a monster of a tank, and even at 8.3 the armour still does hold up. It has everything really, great armour, great gun, and for a heavy tank, great mobility. Has an autoloader too, which fires a 130mm round every 10 seconds with a penetration of over 300mm, making it probably the best APHE round in the game all around. This was available for the huge grind fest that was the first part of Operation Summer, which took about 48 hours of solid playtime to grind out crafting parts to make the tank. Despite this though, a lot of players actually got their hands on it and a fair few are still on the market, but for the very high price of €358 currently, so it's not really going to be viable to get anytime soon. The only way to maybe get your hands on it in the future will probably be going through tournaments. It might appear as a prize in one of the bigger ones down the line. But as of right now, since it's been less than a year after its initial release, it might be a while before we see it available to earn again. For the first of Russia's boats, we have the YA5M. This one's actually pretty unique and was available for WarThunder's 6th birthday last year for completing some small tasks. It's a functional but not amazing vehicle. At 1.3 it has 250 cals and a front-facing 82mm rocket rack. It's pretty deadly if you land a salvo, but it is very situational and only really being effective at close range. It's also comparatively quite slow for the tier, with most other boats around the same BR being at least twice as fast as you. It's not super survivable either, but it's always going to be satisfying landing a rocket salvo on someone. It might come back down the line, but usually vehicles that come out for WarThunder's birthday don't come back for a fair while, so don't hold your breath for this one. Second for Russia's boats, we have the Project 1124 MLRS. This is basically the same as the regular tech tree variant, but replacing a 76mm turret for a Katusha system on the back. It hits hard of course, but it's not super functional. It again only really works at close range, and on top of that it can't face forward and takes a fair while to traverse around, so it's more of a gimmick than an effective weapon. This, like Kennedy's PT-109, was one of the first ship pre-order packs, and like it, I imagine it'll probably come back as a GE vehicle down the line. Lastly for Russia, we have the Leningrad Leader Destroyer. This was released a few days ago for the Sea Voyage event, and from what I can see in my limited experience with the destroyers, is that it's actually very good. It's very quick, sports a good degree of firepower, and also has a very high earning potential of 570% compared to the other premium destroyer at the same tier being 462%. I do have premium on here, but still, pretty good. It was actually released as a coupon, unlike the Mariner, but as of recording, I don't think it's on the market yet. These things usually have a timer on them before they can be sold while the event's running. If it stays as is, it will be a fantastic grinder, and in my limited time using it over the last few days, I've made a fair bit of progress. I can't say how worth it'll be, as the current price can't be ascertained, but if it's cheaper than the PR7U, if you're interested, I'd say go for it, as currently it has earning potential similar to Tier 5 and Tier 6 premiums, which is pretty fantastic. Again, might change down the line, so look into it before getting it if you're watching this far in the future. First for the UK, we have the Martlet Mk4. This is basically just a reskin of the F4 with the 650 cals. There are some slight changes regarding its model and the engine, but they're really very minor to performance in all honesty. Its overall performance is pretty average. It's not unusable by any means, it just doesn't really excel in many areas compared to other 2.7 aircraft. Its 650s are good though, provided you get decent time on target, they'll absolutely shred planes apart. This was available for the second part of last year's Operation Summer for 5 marks of distinction, and a coupon for the vehicle is currently available on the market for the very cheap price of only about €3, so if you are in need of a premium for the UK, it's actually a fairly decent option relative to its price. Also, the 50s can shred a fair few tanks in ground battles at the tier, so it's not really bad for that either. It's a pretty average plane all around, but still very functional. Next up, we have the Whirlwind P9 Heavy Fighter. This is performance-wise identical to the Whirlwind in the main tree, but the P9 here has practically double the ammo at 484 rounds compared to the regular Whirlwind's 240. The Whirlwind itself has quite limited performance in its top speed, but the most inhibiting factor of the Mark I was that it only carried 60 rounds per gun, which the P9 doubles. And as they're both at 4.0 BR, the P9 comparatively is a very good plane. It performs great in the climb, but has terrible dive performance and top speed. This aside though, it still makes for a good flyout despite the lack of versatility. This was available for 2018's World War II Chronicles event for 11 tasks earned, and this again was before the market, so there's currently no way of obtaining it, though it might come around again for an event in the future like these things do, so we'll just have to wait and see. Lastly for Britain is the Spitfire Mk9C. This couples the speed and mobility of the regular Mark 9 with some extra cannons, totaling 4 20mm in total, making it just a real joy to fly. It does take a hit to performance with the extra weight of the guns, but realistically you're still going to be able to outmaneuver everything you could in the regular Mark 9. The firing platform isn't the best though, but with practice it can be a really fun plane to fly out. This was available as a tournament reward last year, with several players fighting in a free-for-all all using Spitfires, and from winning 10 times you'd get a coupon for the plane. Every player had a limited number of attempts though, so it has become a pretty rare plane, as most players kept the aircraft for themselves. The cheapest currently on sale is for 81 Gaijin coins, and at that price it's not really worth it. It might come back again for a similar tournament or other event down the line, and I would recommend trying to get it for yourself if it does, as it can be a really fun plane to try out. For our only Japanese vehicle this time around, we have the Ki 87. This is a giant single-seat fighter. It's a really big plane, equipped with 2 20mm and 2 30mm guns. Its performance is pretty good. It's a high-altitude fighter and generally performs amazing up there. It's practically untouchable, but it's one of those aircraft that have amazing high-altitude performance, but combat never really occurs up that high, so it's never really seen or appreciated. It's also a strict boom and zoom aircraft. It can turn, but not amazingly well, making it quite unlike a vast majority of the other Japanese aircraft, either being turn fighters or hybrids. In this regard, it's pretty hard to use if you're used to the normal playstyle of Japanese aircraft. Very powerful once you get the hang of it though. This has been a pack vehicle for a really long time, but either down to poor sales or maybe just replacing it with something else, it was taken off the store. With all pack vehicles though, it'll probably come back in a super pack down the line, especially because Japan is lacking pack vehicles anyway. In the meantime, if you really want it, it is available currently in the vehicle trophy boxes you can buy for GE, but as the chance of winning is so low, I think it's around 2%, it's really not worth going for in my opinion. For our only Italian aircraft this time around, we have the CR32 Bis. This is very similar to the regular reserve CR32 in the main tree, but it gets 2 extra 7.7s in the wings, for the price of a barely noticeable performance hit. It's actually a pretty great plane. It's manoeuvrable, and the extra guns do actually help as the spread of fire covers a much wider area than the twin 50s in the nose. This was available as one of Italy's pre-order vehicles back when the tree came out, but has since been gone for a fair while now. I actually did miss it on the last rare vehicle video. In any case, I imagine a low tier biplane for a relatively high price didn't sell too well, though it's currently available on the market for about €4. I wouldn't really recommend getting it as it's only a tier 1 premium, but it's a decently powerful and pretty enjoyable machine. Just a bit of fun for the collectors really. Lastly for Italy, we have a bit of a surprise edition here in the M60A1 Ariete. This is, at the time of writing, currently on sale on the market, but as of 1.87 it's going to be removed from sale. A bit of controversy sparked up when on the 1.87 dev server it lost its stabilizer and went to 7.7, and this rightfully upset a few people who bought the product with a stabilizer and were upset that it lost a fair bit of its functionality. Gaijin were faced with a bit of a problem in that apparently the M60A1 Ariete didn't actually come with the AOS, so keeping it on would go against historical accuracy, cue the unhistorical Reddit blah blah Gaijin bashing. But the other problem they faced with changing its performance is that it goes against the legality of selling a digital product. Now, I don't know much about this personally, so I am paraphrasing, but the ins and outs are a digital product once bought by a consumer can't be unreasonably altered by the distributor. So Gaijin have done probably the best thing for all parties and just removed it from sale without changing it. So people who bought it will keep it as is, and this is really the only thing they could have done. It might come back soon, altered in some way, or replaced with another premium, we're just not sure yet. Only time will tell, but for now, it's likely going to be a hidden vehicle for a while. First up for France, we have the D371 HS9. This is the traditional reserve French monoplane, but this experimental variant is equipped with two Hispano HS9 20mm cannons, hence the name. On paper, it's an interesting concept, a manoeuvrable low-tier fighter with two 20mm cannons, but it's not really as practical as it seems. The cannons, first off, only have 30 rounds per gun, and they're placed on the top wing, so the recoil really makes the plane shudder, meaning continuous bursts are completely out of the question, as it'll just rock the firing platform way too much to be accurate. It's only really useful for tapping fighters that aren't paying too much attention. It's a gimmick aircraft, really. Low functionality, but still fun to use. This was one of the pre-order packs when the French Airtree came out, and is currently no longer on the store. It's not on the market at the moment either, but I think it will be there at some point. There's a crate you can buy with war bonds on the market that when opened gives you a rare vehicle. These are usually low tier removed vehicles, so in one of the future iterations of this box I imagine it'll appear there. It might be worth picking up on the cheap for a bit of fun, but not really worth getting if you want a functioning premium. Lastly, for the planes, we have the MB152C1. This is a 2.3 premium featuring twin 20mm cannons and two rifle caliber guns in the wings. So pretty good firepower for the tier, but that's really about it. It's a master of none kind of aircraft. It can turn fire or B&Z, but it's not really amazing at either. It's still reasonably functional, but very slow for what it is. This was available for last year's Winter Madness event as the lower tier reward. A coupon for it is available on the marketplace currently for under 3 Gaijin coins, which is really cheap. So maybe pick it up if you're looking into grinding the French Airtree, but it isn't really that amazing a plane. Also, comparatively quite dull as a premium, I guess. It's the sort of vehicle you expect to see in the main tree. So, in any case, if you're really interested in looking for a premium, you won't be far wrong picking it up for this price. First for the tanks, we have the Charb1 Tur. This is a variant of the B1 BIS, but with much better armour. It's about 70mm on the sides and 70 on the front, but due to the angling, it's closer to 80-85mm. At 2.3, it's catastrophically powerful, with most vehicles having no way of knocking it out apart from the weak spot on the turret ring, but at the tier, most of the players are quite new and probably won't be going for this weak spot. This means that at its tier, it can roll through most teams without a care. It does suffer a bit in an up tier, but it'll still do pretty well. I think I'm about 12-1 in mine when I was grinding the camos for it, if that's any indication how good it is. This was one of the French pre-order packs that granted CBT access to ground forces at the time. It has since been removed, either due to poor sales, it's only a tier 2, or in fear of maybe breaking the game a little bit if there's too many of them running around. But like other removed pack vehicles, it'll probably find its way into a super pack down the line, or maybe even return as a GE vehicle, but I'm not too sure how likely that'll be. So, last but not least, we have the Lorraine 155 MLE50. This is an SPG on the Lorraine chassis and houses, surprisingly, a 155mm gun. It does only fire HE and smoke, but at 4.3, the HE will devastate anything you find with 53mm of penetration. It also gets a 20mm gunner who pokes out of the top, but he does get taken out very, very fast, being so exposed. The penetration on this gun is also quite low, about 25mm, so using it against tanks isn't really that viable. It's also exposed to air attacks from most angles too, so even a plane with MGs can quite easily take it out. As the roof gunner is so vulnerable, you're left almost defenseless from planes. Well, almost. This was available for 2018's World War II Chronicles event for 11 tasks completed. It hasn't been available since, but maybe it will be in the future. As it was the main prize for ground forces that year, it'll probably be scarce for a good while yet. Right, there we are guys. Really hope you enjoyed the video. If I missed anything out, please let me know, and check out the shop in the description if you want something fancy for your wall. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.